Francisco's investment in trash. The city wants to turn all its food waste into farm-friendly compost. Later, the stock market is improving, but employment is not, so lawmakers press for a way to improve the small business climate. And we'll ask what a Democratic Congress is doing about its own ethics. It's the birthday of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is 60 years old. And the news is next.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Giles Snyder. In Vienna today, 3 days of intensive talks ended with a draft document aimed at easing concerns over Iran's nuclear program. The countries involved, the U.S., France, Russia, and Iran, have until Friday to sign off on the proposal. From Vienna, NPR's Eric Westervelt has details.
International Atomic Energy Agency head Mohamed El-Baradei gave no details of the draft document that, if approved, diplomats confirmed, would see the majority of Iran's stockpile of low-enriched uranium sent to Russia for processing and conversion into fuel for a reactor used for medical research and cancer care. El-Baradei said he hoped the draft agreement would be approved by all by Friday. He said it could open the way for normalization of relations between Iran and the international community.
Everybody is aware that that transaction is a very important confidence-building measure that can diffuse the crisis that has been going on for a number of years and open space for negotiation.
If the parties, Iran, Russia, and the United States, sign off on the deal, it would then go before the Atomic Energy Agency's board for final approval. Eric Westervelt, NPR News, Vienna.
Defense Secretary Robert Gates says North Korea's nuclear program is a serious security challenge for the entire region. Gates says the U.S. will never accept a nuclear North Korea.
Ironically, as the capabilities of their ground forces continues to degrade in terms of being a threat, their missile development and nuclear programs are increasingly dangerous and destabilizing.
Gates was speaking to U.S. and South Korean troops in Seoul today. North Korea has made conciliatory gestures after conducting an atomic test in May and a series of ballistic missile tests. In Boston, federal officials are expected to hold a news conference this hour regarding an arrest in a terrorism case. One man is reported to be in custody and 2 others are said to be implicated. A prison inmate faces arson and murder charges in Southern California. He's been named in a grand jury indictment for a deadly wildfire in 2003. Steve Julian with member station KPCC reports.
Investigators say Ricky Fowler and another man were seen driving a white van along the road where the old fire began, and one of them threw a road flare into dry brush. The man Fowler allegedly was with that day was shot and killed 3 years ago. The investigation simmered for several years but gained steam last year, and then new evidence surfaced a few weeks ago. Prosecutors had until Sunday to file arson charges. That's when the statute of limitations would expire. The fire burned 90,000 acres, destroyed 1,000 homes near 2 mountain resorts, and led to the heart-attack deaths of 5 people, the youngest of whom was 54. Because the deaths occurred as a result of arson, Fowler could face the death penalty if he is convicted. He's currently serving time for an unrelated burglary conviction. For NPR News, I'm Steve Julian in Los Angeles.
And you're listening to NPR News. In the early going on Wall Street, the stocks are up. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 42 points at 10,083. The NASDAQ Composite Index also up 17 points at 2180. The Nelson Mandela Foundation is threatening to take action over a book praising the president of Congo, Brazzaville, which has a foreword supposedly written by Nelson Mandela. NPR's Vivi Quisarte reports.
The book, entitled Straight Speaking for Africa, is by President Denis Sassou Nguesso of Congo-Brazzaville. The book carries a foreword praising Sassou as a great African leader and claims it was written by Nelson Mandela. Sassou first seized power in a coup d'etat. After losing power, he bounced back and returned to elected office as president after winning a crippling civil war. The Nelson Mandela Foundation says Mandela did not write the words, nor has he read the book. The foundation condemned what it called a brazen abuse of Mandela's name and has threatened unspecified appropriate action. A statement said Mandela was still inundated with requests to write book forwards, but had indicated a year ago that he stopped. Ophelia Starkton, NPR News, Dakar.
Tropical storm Rick is expected to make landfall in western Mexico today after sparing Mexico's Baja California peninsula. Authorities in the region are preparing for flash floods and mudslides. In Mexico's Sinaloa state, classes have been suspended for some students. And the governor is urging residents to pay attention to advisories. He said soldiers are ready to help with possible evacuations. Forecasters say Rick could dump up to 6 inches of rain. I'm Giles Snyder, and you're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Support for NPR comes from Mini, featuring the 37-mile-per-gallon Mini Cooper with go-kart handling. Learn more at miniusa.com/info.
Good morning, it's 7:06 and I'm Cherry Glazer for KCRW. As swine flu continues to spread, hospitals in the LA area have started limiting the type and number of visitors for certain types of patients. KCRW's Melissa Grant has the story.
Hospital officials say that this epidemic is different from the typical flu season and that they're having to respond in a different way. So they're taking steps to protect patients who are most vulnerable. The LA Times reports that Cedars-Sinai Medical Center has raised the minimum age of visitors from 12 to 18 and restricted the number of visitors for patients at greatest risk for H1N1, including those in labor and delivery or in the pediatric and neonatal intensive care units. Other restrictions at area hospitals include Valley Presbyterian in Van Nuys, which has barred children under age 16 from visiting inpatient units or being left unattended in lobbies and waiting rooms. And Children's Hospital Los Angeles has limited patients to 2 visitors at a time. Officials from LA County's 3 public hospitals plan to meet Friday to review their visitor policies. For KCRW, I'm Melissa Grant.
Meanwhile, after hearing reports that patients with swine flu and other illnesses are waiting in LA County's USC hospital emergency room up to 24 hours before admission, the LA County Supes have voted to transfer patients to other hospitals when the ER becomes too crowded. The Daily News reports that supervisors directed USC Medical Center to transfer as many patients as necessary to ensure its emergency room maintains an average of no more than 13 patients waiting no more than 11 hours for admission. California plans to build a new inmate healthcare facility in Stockton. Federal receiver Clark Kelso made the announcement yesterday. He was appointed by a federal judge to improve medical care at the state's prisons. The new facility will house more than 1,700 mentally and physically ill inmates. It will be built on the site of an abandoned youth correctional facility. Kelso says it's a significant step.
It does provide a new facility to deal with the most acute medical conditions that inmates have, as well as the most serious mental health issues.
Kelso says the new facility will employ about 7,000 workers. Construction is set to begin next year and will take 2 years to complete. He estimates it will cost just over $1 billion. The money will come from bonds already approved by the legislature. The LAPD wants to stop working with the organization that runs its Explorer program for kids because the group is linked to Boy Scouts of America, which bans gays. A department official told the police commission yesterday that the Boy Scouts policy is inconsistent with the city's policy of non-discrimination. He suggested that the department manage the Explorer program itself. And all superior courts and their offices will be closed throughout the state today to help cut costs during California's ongoing financial crisis. The court closures are scheduled for the 3rd Wednesday of every month through next June. And that's KCRW News. Taking a look now at traffic. We've got problems flaring up on that southbound 405 through the valley. This traffic report is made possible by the Pepperdine University Graduate School of Education and Psychology. The trouble spot southbound 405 before Burbank, accident involving a couple of vehicles tying up the second lane from the left. Expect that to add to your delays as you're trying to make your way down towards the 101. Meanwhile, near USC, south 110 before MLK, it's a wreck at the center divider. Linwood, west 105 past the 710. Accident involving a motorcyclist, and we understand one or more lanes could be affected. And in Santa Fe Springs, north 605 and Telegraph reports an accident there. Sunny and warm today. Highs will be in the 70s along the coast, 80s downtown near 90 inland. It's 58 right now in downtown Los Angeles, 57 in Marina del Rey, 51 in Santa Barbara. You're listening to 89.9 KCRW. It's 7:10.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. Good morning. I'm Renee Montaigne.
And I'm Steve Inskeep. Congress has set the rules for moving some detainees away from Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Some, but not all. The Senate voted last night that some detainees can come to the United States. They can only come if they're going to be put on trial. The House has already said the same. NPR's Ari Shapiro is tracking the president's plan to close Guantanamo. Ari, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
How much has changed here?
Well, actually not a whole lot. The big change here really is that Congress has basically removed its threat to close the door from Guantanamo to the United States altogether.